Hi everyone, this is Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. I've been playing around with the Petri dish technique and melt and pour soap. So the Petri dish technique is actually a resin technique where you add colored alcohol inks to clear resin and create a sort of dotted droplet effect that basically looks like, some bacteria spawning and growing in a Petri dish. So I've been playing around with that technique, but instead of using alcohol inks, I've actually been using skin-safe mica and isopropyl alcohol to sort of make a DIY alcohol ink. And this is the effect that I'm getting. It is sort of little droplets and does sort of look Petri dish-like, but it's a really fine wispy effect. This is the back here as well, which looks a little bit different, but this is the front. We have just some pinks, light pinks, and some white that I put into that soap bar. The same with this one here. And it's just a very fine, dotted, wispy effect. And I think it's really lovely. I think it's very pretty. And I did some experimenting, sort of different ways to add the mica. Also adding some more soap base to it after I've added the mica, just to try a whole bunch of different ways to see what worked best. This bar here is actually quite dark. If I hold it up close, you can see that there is a Petri dish effect, but the back has actually, I tried a different process for this one, and it's resulted in the back having sort of some mica soap stuck to it, and it's stopping the light from shining through, which is sort of hindering the Petri dish effect. But I'm glad I discovered that, because when I do this again next time, I'll know not to do that again. But let's proceed with the tweak of the week. And this week's tweak is using mica and alcohol to create a Petri dish effect. So the tweak of the week is where I share with you everyday items and tools from other crafts and hobbies that with a slight tweak can be used for soap making and other craft projects. And you can find all of the tweak of the week projects in a special playlist on this channel. So doing the Petri dish effect does require some setting up before you start. I've got a bunch of different pink and plum colored micas here, some aubergine too. You also are going to need some sort of vessel to mix up your micas in. I'm using these great little silicone resin mixing bowls. I'll put a link in the description. I also have a mica spoon and also a 1/8 of a teaspoon measuring spoon that I'm going to be using as well. So I'm just going to add no more than 4 colors to each of my soap bars. I'll start off with a variety of pinks. I want to sort of do an effect where I go from dark to light and see how that looks. So I'm putting a little mica spoon scoop into each one of these, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of isopropyl alcohol. So that's a ratio of 1:4 of mica to alcohol. I'm also only going to be making 1 bar of soap at a time, and that's simply because I'm experimenting and I want to try things a different way every time I do a different bar. So I'm just going to be using this very small measuring cup here to weigh out my melt and pour soap base. I'm using bamboo skewers to mix up my micas and my alcohol. And I'm going to start by weighing out 80 grams of clear. This is an ultra clear melt and pour soap base. So I'm just going to be making an 80-gram bar of soap. I'm quickly going to melt that. Give it a stir just to make sure that there's no small blobs of unmelted soap left in there. I'm scenting my soap today with a rose geranium essential oil, which I think matches the pinks that I'm using quite nicely. So I'm just going to stir that in. And once I've done that, I will just pour all of the soap base into one of the mold cavities. There we go. Just going to scrape down the cup, make sure I've got it all. I will give this a spray with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of those surface bubbles. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my micas. I'm making sure that I'm giving them a stir immediately before adding them to my soap, just because the mica is settling in the alcohol. It doesn't dissolve, it's just sort of suspended, and it does tend to settle to the bottom, so I'm giving it a really good stir. And the technique that I want to try is actually just pouring this dark color around the outside of my soap. Here we go. And I find the alcohol and the mica is not very dense, and it really does float. So it's often good to sort of add your mica to your soap from a height, and rather than, you know, pour it neatly and gently in, just give it a really good dump right into the middle there, just to make sure that that alcohol and that mica starts penetrating into the soap rather than floating on top. So I've done all my colors here except for the white. As you can see, if you look at it, the mica in the alcohol is sort of spreading and moving, sort of blooming, I suppose, on the surface of the soap. It's constantly moving there, which I think is really interesting. And hopefully it's also sinking down into the bar of the soap. Now lastly, I'm going to put my white mica right in the middle of the soap, and I probably did that a little bit too gently and too close. See how all that mica is actually floating on the surface? I really hope some of that makes it down into into the bottom of the soap bar, but there's some disappearing now. Okay, that's good. Now there's no way of knowing what that's going to look like until that bar is set and I demold it. So it's just going to have to leave it like that and keep experimenting to see what sort of effects I get. So I'm going to mix up some more alcohol and mica. I'm doing exactly the same colors again, except next time I'm going to add them to my soap in the reverse order. I'll have the white around the outside and I'll put the dark pink in the center. So like I said, if I'm experimenting here, so I'm doing this all separately, but you could absolutely weigh enough soap base for 4 soap bars and measure out enough mica for 4 soap bars and do all 4 soap bars quite quickly together. You don't have to do these separately. I'm just doing them separately today, just so I can sort of change the procedure every single time and do something a little bit different. All right, so I'm ready for the second bar of soap now. I have melted the same amount of base, and I'm also going to scent it with exactly the same scent as before. There's some more rose geranium essential oil. I'll give that a good stir in. There we go. And I will pour this into the soap cavity. Spray it with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of those surface bubbles. And this time around, I'm going to start with my white, making sure that I've given it a stir immediately before dropping it in. Trying to drop it in from a height, not necessarily gently, just trying to dump it in to make sure that I get a good effect. And I'm moving from my lightest pinks onto my darkest pinks. So something I'm going to try here now is actually taking a break between adding some of the micas to see if that makes a difference when the soap is set. So I'm actually going to start weighing out my next soap bar just to sort of delay the adding of these next micas. So there goes in that pastel pink there. And then now I've melted this. I'm taking another break before adding the very last dark pink, which I'm now going to put in the center. There we go, tipping that all on top of itself. Okay, and we'll see at the end whether adding the mica at different intervals makes a difference to the finished bar of soap. For my next bar of soap, I've actually added a little bit extra of the soap base, and I'm going to tint it all pink with this hot pink liquid soap coloring that I have. I'm just adding a tiny little bit off the end of my skewer, maybe a little bit more, and I'm going to see what the Petri dish effect would look like with a colored transparent soap. So again, that was just my essential oil going in there. I've just scented it the same as my other 2 bars. going to give that a good stir. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to add a little bit of this pink to this bar that I've just poured there. And then I'm also then going to pour the rest to be my next bar. There we go. And I haven't made up my little alcohol inks yet. This time I'm going to try some different colors. I've got this aubergine here and a nice little rose, dusty rose color. That's nice. And I think I'll also go just my light pink again, just try and lighten it up a bit because those are quite dark colors. Okay, so again, adding my 1/8 of a teaspoon of isopropyl alcohol. And I've got some dregs sort of in the bottom of these little containers here that I might see if I can add a little bit more of alcohol to those to suspend that mica in and maybe put in some extra. So here we go. I'm not going around the edge this time. I'm just going to put it in at the side. So I'll do one side that dark aubergine and this side the nice rose. There we go. And then I'm going to dump this pastel pink right in the center. Hopefully some of that flows down. And let's see how that comes out with a pink transparent soap base rather than just a clear one. And now for my final soap, just weighing out another 80 grams. I think I'll probably make this one pink as well. I'm just going to scrape down all the pink colouring off this skewer here. There we go. Yep, that's giving me a better colour. Again, scenting it like I always do. There we are. So this one I'm going to start with a pink base as well. But what I want to do is, I'm thinking for the final colour, I might mix some of my base with the alcohol and the mica to create sort of maybe like a heavier, more denser addition. And I want to see if that gives me an interesting effect at all. So again, I'm going to use my plum and my aubergine. Just quickly mixing up these colors here because my soap has already melted and the clock is ticking on when it will possibly set. So there we go. I've got 4 colors there. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop a tiny amount of this soap base into the white before pouring the rest into the mold cavity. Giving that a spray. And I'm going to quickly add all these other colors. Some aubergine around the outside. Some dark pink here that's sort of left over from before, just down the side. Here we go, there's some more pink down the side. Some dark spots here and there. Just seeing what different effect I can get by playing with these. There we go. Sort of splash some of that on, just getting rid of all these little bits of leftovers I have. Now here is the white mica and alcohol, which I've also mixed some soap base into. Now the alcohol has made sure that that hasn't set up directly. And there we go, I've just dropped that in the middle there. I wonder if I could add some to this one too. Oh, okay, that one's already got its skin on it. I just thought I had some left over and I might be able to pour some into that one to see what happened. All right, I'll keep dropping it in here. It definitely seems to be more dense and it definitely looks like it's sort of going straight to the bottom. I can see a little bit on the surface here. There we go. I gave that a stir, which I probably shouldn't have done. But no, well, we'll see how that goes. All right, now because there's a skin here, I might actually just be able to pick this up and carefully move it to the side. No, it doesn't want to budge. I think I'm still confident I can rescue this. What if I just try and pick it up? Oh, maybe not with my fingers. I think if I use a skewer, Just trying to find a clean one. These all got gunk on them. Maybe this one. Maybe if I can just carefully pick it up. There we go. I'm just going to take the whole skin off that there. And that's taken away the white blob that I had on it. I think I might have saved it. How's it looking? Yeah, it's still quite runny. Stop stirring, Samantha. No, don't stir it. It's supposed to be Petri dish effect, and now it's more a swirl. Oh well. I'm going to stop fiddling with these now and give them some time to set. Okay, so here are my bars. They're fully set. Some of them are looking a little bit swirly, and some of them just have a little bit of mica on the back. I'm going to take them all out and have a look at what we've got. See what sort of interesting effects I got trying out the different techniques. So this is the first one I did, where I started out with the dark pink around the outside and finished with the white in the middle. Let's turn it over and have a look. There we go. Wow, that's really, really interesting effect. I really like that. I can't see much of the white in the middle, though I do remember at the time thinking that I poured the white in too gently and I was wondering whether it was going to work. So the white, most of the white looks like it has gotten stuck to the back. You can see it there. But overall, still a very pretty soap bar. So this is the second one I did. I used exactly the same colors, but I did white around the outside and finished with the dark pink in the center this time round. So let's take a look at this. Turn it over. Yeah, okay, so that's more the effect that I was hoping to get. You can see the beautiful white wispy bits around the edge. That's really fine and pretty, very delicate. But in the middle, we certainly have sort of a big blush of pink, which looks fantastic. I like it. I like it. And I think it's really interesting that I used exactly the same colors for these first two bars. But because of the order and the location that I put the colors in, they actually look quite different, which I think is interesting. Okay, so this one I did with my pink transparent base. But I also added some dark micas to this, and then lastly in the middle I put some pastel pink. I think this one's come out really well. So you can see the aubergine on one side and the dusty rose on the other, and then in the center is the pink. I think I only used 3 colors on this one. So again, some beautiful wispiness around the edges, but also some spotting on the surface, which is that sort of Petri dish effect that we're after. Didn't suffer too badly from the fact that I spilt some white soap on it and had to pull the skin off the back. I think that's looking quite nice. Yeah, and look on the back, it's all nice and swirly too. That's really pretty. Yeah, I like that one. That's a very good example of what we're going for. Okay, and the last one where I actually mixed the white mica and alcohol with some soap base and added it lastly. And I'm wondering if I've got any of that white soap base coming through. I can certainly see plenty of it on the back. It sort of looks like the white actually mixed with the micas that were on the back. Yeah, and I think it did, because I cannot see any white at all. I was hoping maybe that white would sink and come through at the bottom, but all I can see is this dark aubergine here around the edge. I can see evidence of those other colors that I sort of dropped in. I dropped in a tiny bit of pink, which is right there. There's a tiny little speck here of a lighter color as well, but the white is not to be seen, which I think is very interesting. What do you guys think? Do you like this effect? I mean, I know I used very similar colors, but I was just experimenting. It might be different if you used, a bunch of different colors. This one here is really, really dark. It's really hard to see the Petri dish effect. And I think that could be because that white mica mixed soap on the back, it just, it mixed up with the darker micas and has actually sort of created an opaque back to the soap, which is stopping the light shining through, which is making the Petri dish effect a little bit harder to see. So that's good to know that you really do need sort of that transparency, that clear base to really make that come through. The last thing I'm going to do to these is I'm just going to use a piece of acrylic from my acrylic bevel just to bevel off the sort of harsh edge on the back there. Just round them off a little bit more nicely. There we go. And some of them, the back look really pretty. I don't know. Do you think some of them the backs look better than the front, or do you prefer the front? Drop me a comment and let me know what you think. Okay, so there's the last one there. All right, clean those all up. So here are 4 beautiful Petri dish effect bars. That's what they look like on the back. Here's what they look like on the front. And I think they'll be lots of fun to use. I think while you're using them in the shower, the design's going to constantly change as the outer layers get washed away. I think it's going to be a very nice look. So here's the prototype I made. I just made this one, which was supposed to be the same as this one. Interestingly, the white in the center has come through much better on this bar. I think I dropped it in from a height and did a much better job. But other than that, they look quite similar. So it's a very consistent effect that you can get around the edges. There you go. This prototype I've actually used in the shower already a couple of times. So the back has washed off, and this is what the back looks like now, sort of all nice and wispy, because that first layer of that mica sitting there has washed away. But the front is still got that really great sort of spotted and mottled yet wispy Petri dish effect that I was going for. So I just wanted to show you guys that as well, that other one that I made. Okay, so here they are. Petri dish effect soap bars. A pretty easy technique, really. I fussed about and did all different things, but if you just pour your soap bars and then dump in your mica, I think you'll end up with some really great effects. So it's definitely something you should give a go. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tweak of the week. Please like and subscribe if you like what I do, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy.